Osiris.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Touchdowns All Day podcast with John Barber and Max Dawson. I am your host, John Barber. Max will be on soon as I do the rant, usually solo in my studio. Today, in the studio, going to Scotland later today for the weekend and some birthday party action going on over there. Very excited to go there. Haven't been there since the biscuits were there. And we found out that every single thing in Scotland was named after Magner. Magner, not knowing he was Scottish, found out that weekend when he walked around the city and literally his name was on every single building. Imagine going to a place where the town square has your name on every single building you look at, and you did not know that was happening. I mean, how much fun must that have been for Aaron to see that? Hopefully the biscuits will get back there. We had a great gig in Scotland when we went over there. Hopefully we'll get back there someday soon. I'm going to go this weekend and just check it out. See, ironically, I was born on Gleneagles Road, and we're going to a place called Gleneagles. So for me, there's a little bit of a loop back. But anyways, folks, what a great tour. The tour ended with a smashing weekend with Atlanta and Raleigh, selling out another Sunday show. I don't know how we're doing it, but you fans are elevating the band, and we love it. Thank you so much. Also, the music gods graced me for the second time on this tour with a secondhand Onyx Parker from Reverb, which is a guitar for all of you who are not guitar heads. So now I have a new guitar rotation that I think really worked this tour for the fan base. It's got a little bit of everything for everybody. It's the PRS that was so lovingly given to me by Paul Reed Smith himself and his team over at PRS. We toured the factory, saw how they make the guitars, and we met a bunch of people involved in making the guitars. And honestly, I can't talk enough about how great that visit was. I would go back and do it again. It was so much fun. Some of the new guitars I see those guys making, especially for the heavy metal guys, are getting these incredible guitars. And I think I'm going to start a heavy metal band so I can go into PRS and, be like, hey, I'm a heavy metal guitar player. Can you make me one of those? You know what I mean? I might have to paint myself white, paint my skin totally white, and then put a black, huge headdress of, whatever that is, however you make those black heavy metal headdresses that are 3 feet long in every direction, and then wear black leather clothing with buckles all over it, and then black boots with 80,000 buckles on it, and then walk in there and be like, I've never heard of a jam band before. I'm a heavy metal guy. Do you have any heavy metal guitars? And then they'll be like, yeah, this is our pink and wood and blue guitar that we're making for these heavy metal guys, and it's 24 frets, plays amazing, weighs 2 pounds. And I'll be like, yes, I'll take that one, thank you. So I gotta say, those guys are making some incredible guitars. Also, back in the guitar rotation is the Gibson, the classic, the John Barber classic guitar with that famous jazzy bell tone over techno that everybody loves. And then this new Onyx Parker, which I got on Reverb and was dirt cheap and broken. And we just had the thought, me and Nick, my guitar tech, many of you know Nick well because he was the star of the last podcast episode. Max Dawson's interview with Nick was quite insightful for those of you who haven't heard it. Nick picked out this Parker on Reverb and was like, look, it's busted up. And then he looks at me and goes, I think we're the ones who can fix this. Meaning this guitar is on Reverb. Nobody's ever going to buy it because it's a total piece of junk. But we are a touring musical outfit with a bunch of techie guys who know how to fix stuff. Ben on the far side of the stage could probably fix it. Nick can fix it. And so I was like, okay, great. So we bought this guitar from this great guy in Texas, drove it to our Dallas show, came backstage, hung out with me, walked onto stage. I showed him all my gear. He told me about all of his stuff. We had a great meeting. Very cool guy. I tried to buy the guitar with gas gift cards, and he said no. He wanted cash. So we paid cash. Although I do advise beginning a negotiation for a used instrument with, I'd like to purchase this with gasoline gift cards if possible. and just take it from there. I think you'll get a better price. If you just start there, you know, as a musician, you're allowed to do such things, and you might as well take advantage of that. Highly recommended. And then, you know, I gave the guitar to Nick. He's got the guitar right now in Colorado, and Nick is performing different kinds of surgery on this guitar, but it already plays fantastic, and we're already very happy. The PRS Parker combo in Raleigh and Atlanta was undeniable. I mean, it was just to go from last year's stretch of instruments, which I thought was excellent, to my current stretch of instruments, which is also fantastic. Just to be able to, you know, with a little gift from Paul Reed Smith and bring the Gibson back out, I think we really did a good job dialing in a new guitar setup when things were changing rapidly. Also, the Helix, the Line 6, Nick also discusses that in the podcast. They're sending me a new one of those in the mail, so thank you, Line 6, for that. The Helix is responsible for all the new synth sounds and stuff, and I'm still dialing them in, folks. They're crazy. They are wild and crazy, and a lot of times they're nuts. And I really appreciate when I listen to Biscuits with people and the guitar goes to some crazy noise. I would expect people to be like, oh, that's terrible. But people like laugh and think it's fun. And they like to go along with this ride. And I appreciate that because it encourages me to experiment more, find more cool, unique sounds. I mean, honestly, of all the guitar players in the world right now, like, who sounds like John Barber? Nobody, right? Nobody has the array of different synthesizers / modern / electronic guitar sounds that I'm messing with the Biscuits on a day-to-day level. And I'm happy about that. I really think it's cool. It allows me to sit back in the pocket, play different kinds of rhythm guitar, synced up with Alan, synced up with Mark, and it gives Aaron a lot of space to world build in a techno place. And Aaron is so good at that I like playing. Like, I don't want to be in the world building with him sometimes. Sometimes I want to be in the pocket, in the groove with the rest of the band. And it allows me to do that. I mean, that PRS rhythm on that PRS is just a dream. There's one, the middle neck pickup is the most perfect rhythm pickup I've ever had in my life. It's unique from every PRS I've had. The Gibson doesn't have that gear. And the Parker's a little close, but it's not quite as real funky, you know? It's just a little bit more aggressive. And I love that setting on the PRS. So it's given me the opportunity to sit in some real funk with the band. And I love that. I'm having a great time. These Biscuit tours are amazing. It just seems like the music gods are smiling at us, and I really appreciate that. We are on sale, folks, for Bisco Land, July 4 through 6, Lafayette, New York. Tiers 1 and 2 sold out almost immediately. Tiers 3 is probably going to sell out relatively soon. The price goes up on each tier, so get your advance tickets at the lower price now. As for everything I talk about in this rant, I have a link tree on my Barber Shreds on my profile on Instagram, and you can go to these places and you can see a link to the Bisco Land tickets right on there. Playing at Ticketland also is Lettuce, our boys in Lettuce. It's gonna be great to see them. Break Science, Kitchen Dwellers will be fun. The Special, Manic Focus, Late Night Radio. And of course, Nora and Pure, who's a huge DJ act in the DJ scene. If you know about her, you probably already know what I'm talking about. Great act, great music. Sax Squatch is coming out. The Breakfast Racks, DJ Minx was just added. Space Bacon, Ben Silver, Squeaky Feet. Bunch of great bands. But most notably for me, because I have to actually rehearse this, is the next big Tractor Beam show is at Bisco Land. Big Tractor Beam show. So get ready for that. The Tractor Beam show at the Fox was a huge success. It sounded great. It's on my SoundCloud, cut into pieces. If you want to go listen to the moments from that on the Baba G SoundCloud, we wanted to do it on a big stage like Bisco Land, which is a huge stage. We'll see you there. Honestly, you could run festivals with the Biscuits all summer because there's festivals all summer. May 24 through 26, we're playing Soul Shine, a Reverie in Chillicothe, Illinois. We got one set there. June 20, Electric Forest, Rothbury. We got one set there. July 18, 19, Secret Dreams, Thornville, Ohio. We got 2 sets there. July 20, Great South Bay Music Festival in Patchogue, New York. 1 set there. August 5 through 9, the Elements Festival in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. We got a set there. So lots of opportunities to see the Biscuits outdoors this summer. Get your tickets. Come hang out with the band. We're playing new songs this summer. We have new songs already. We went right back to work after tour. We got a couple new bangers. I was happy to get Stars in the Sky back in the set. At the end of tour, I'm still working on it a little bit, but I really like where it's at. I like the vibe for a Biscuit show. It's a little bit less pedal to the metal and a little bit more, philosophical, which I think is a nice little flavoring into the show. That song's going to get better. There's other new songs coming out this summer, so come to these shows, check out the band, support your favorite team, because this is the summer for the Biscuits to explode in the music scene entirely, and we appreciate everybody being here for us. Also, Baba G at the Liaison Room last week, I did a 3.5-hour DJ set, no break. I don't even know what I was doing. It was insane. I played 8 songs that I'd never played for anyone before, including one with vocal stylings from Ayumi Perry, who's a Philadelphia stylist who I heard her sing on Instagram and was like, what's up? Like, let's get you in the studio. We got her in the studio. We recorded basically a whole album worth of stuff with her. I just haven't had a chance to mix it and get it going yet. So that'll be a big part of the Baba G album. Baba G has gigs at the 8x10 with DJ Brownie on May 18th, and in Brooklyn, New York City, the first New York City gig for Baba G with ex-Goose drummer Ben Atkine on June 1st. Links for tickets to both of those shows. Both of those shows are Saturdays, so come on out. Those are also on my link tree on the socials, so go check them out. Get some tickets. Posting the Baba G Liaison Room 3.5-hour extravaganza on my SoundCloud. I don't know. It was just awesome. 3.5 hours. It really came off great. The crowd stayed the whole time. It was a banger. It was the best DJ show I've ever done, I think. It was just awesome. The crowd was great. It was sold out. I don't know what we're doing in Philly next. So we're kind of up in air on a Philly play. Maybe we'll grab like a new festival, like one of these littler festivals or something in the area. We'll do a Baba G DJ show, or maybe we'll play Liaison Room again, which was dope. I'd love to do it again. There's a lot of opportunities to do different things. So that's basically what's going on in my world. I've got to get ready to go to Scotland. I'm going to pass this one over to Max Dawson. We're mass communicating.
We're mass communicating. We're mass communicating. We're mass communicating.
Thank you for that introduction, Barber. Max here, and we have an exciting episode for you this week. Joining me first, Disco Biscuits drummer Alan Aucoin, one of the most requested guests since I joined the squad here at Touchdowns All Day. And Alan does not disappoint. He goes deep on all things from his perspective behind the kit. After that, we'll continue with our series highlighting your covers of Biscuits songs. In this episode, we'll listen to a pretty unique and really uplifting performance of Huma Huma Nuku Nuku Apua by the Ross Street School Choir, led by Biscuits fan Mark Filarama. This is a group of 5th and 6th graders, and when you hear the story behind how they came to cover this song, I think you'll appreciate their performance even more. Make sure you rate and review Touchdowns All Day wherever you get your podcasts. Please share an episode with a friend. And if you have a message for me, John, or anyone else, the Touchdowns All Day organization, you know where to hit us up, 424-666-SIYD, number to call. It's the hotline where you can leave us a voicemail. Could also get us at Touchdowns All Day on Instagram, or TDAD Baby on X. Without any further ado, let's get to our interview with Disco Biscuits drummer Alan Aucoin. Currently hearing in the background an example of Alan's side project, Dr. Famous. We're also going to listen to a number of great jams from the Why We Dance tour. But before we do, let me hit you with a few numbers. 34, 65, 7. 34 shows on the Why We Dance tour. 65 sets. 7 commas. Let that sink in. In 58 of the 65 sets played on the Why We Dance tour, the Disco Biscuits did not stop playing. The 132 beat per minute heartbeat, the unceasing, unrelenting pulse that propelled those sets and propelled the Disco Biscuits across this tour is, of course, our guest today. Alan, welcome to Touchdowns All Day.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
How are you holding up after a tour as long and intense as the Why We Dance tour?
Well, in general, it feels amazing. We've been looking for a tour like that for maybe 10 years. And it just feels good to have that done and look forward to the next tour. Although I have been sick since I got off tour, which I'm so glad it didn't happen while I was on tour. But yeah, I came home and then 3 or 4 days later, I could go a whole tour and meet all these people and hang out with everybody backstage and not have any problems. And I come home for 3 or 4 days and my 6-year-old brings an elementary school flu into the house, and that completely annihilated me for about 11 days.
Well, we're glad that you're on the mend.
Yes.
One thing I wanted to ask is, what do you do to keep your body in working order on a tour of that duration, from food to exercise to sleep, and not to mention the fact that you are playing the drums for 3+ hours every night with very few breaks. I think I counted 7 commas in all of the set lists throughout the entire tour.
Okay. Nice. Well, sleep is probably the least of the best prepared out of all the things you asked about there, especially when we're on a tour bus. Although our last tour bus driver, Curtis Broadway, was the best tour bus driver I have ever experienced. I slept more on that last leg of the tour than any other tour ever before. But usually, the tour bus is rocking, and every now and then there's a jerk, and it's just hard to sleep on the bus a lot of the time. But that was not the case with Curtis Broadway. So I got great sleep on those last 10 days or whatever it was. But I'm vegan, so I'm pretty strict about trying to eat as clean as possible. Lots of salads, lots of I do eat a lot of carbs to keep the energy up while I'm playing drums. But I try to keep it as clean as possible. Sometimes, I'll try to keep it raw, just it makes digestion easier while I'm out on the road. And then while I'm at home, I work out 6 days a week. Sometimes I won't take a break. I'll just go and go and go. And on the road, I can get a little crazy where at the beginning of the tour, I was running before the shows. And so I started out in Montana, and I started out around 5 miles. And then by the time that first leg had ended, I was running over half marathons before the shows, which is crazy. Mark and John were kind of like, what is wrong with you? But that was, I live in Parker, Colorado. And so we're at altitude here. We're at about 5,800, 6,000 feet. And so that first leg of the tour was in Montana's got some altitude, and Oregon had some altitude. But then we were in San Francisco and LA. And then it was kind of easier for me to hit those miles and watch them ramp up without really any issues. And to be honest, it's easier to run a half marathon than it is to play a Disco Biscuit show, believe it or not. So, and then I will usually play the show and then work out after the show. So the show is kind of halfway between for me. So after the show, I'll go back to the hotel room, or I'll beeline to the bus before people start getting on the bus, and I'll try to get a workout in for about an hour and a half or so. And that's
what kind of post-show workout are you doing?
If we have a hotel room, I'll have resistance bands, and I'll do a resistance band strength training workout. If we're on the bus, you can't really lodge a resistance band underneath a door or anything like that. So I'll do negative workouts where you'll do push-ups, and you'll count like 5 at the top and then 5 on the way down, and then hold for 5 and then 5 on the way back up, and then do like bicycle crunches and Bulgarian split squats, where you take one leg and you stick it on something behind you that's a little elevated, and and those are all negative workouts. So it gets real brutal once you start, getting the repetitions are getting into like the 20s and the 30s, So that's usually, and then at home I'll do. I'm a member of a gym here and called Whole Health Club. It's actually a vegan gym, and they really specialize in finding people that are like not vegan but kind of want to like change their life and change their patterns, and I actually do workouts with them online, and I'll do like, they have every day at 4:30 I'll do a workout with them, and then it turns out to be like 2 strength training workouts, and then 2 tone workouts, and then 2 endurance workouts over the week, and then every now and then I'll throw an extra saucy one on Sunday.
Well, that's a really impressive physical regimen, all the more so that you're able to keep it up on tour. I know even attending shows, it's very easy for my own fitness regimen or dietary considerations to go out the window the minute you get into the venue or step on a plane. So the discipline and dedication that you're able to maintain is really impressive. And I guess on a related note, I know that from your past appearance on Touchdowns All Day, you have a very consistent and strong meditation practice.
Right.
Has that been able to continue through all of this intense touring?
Yes. Luckily, on our bus, the first few buses in my beginning of my career in the Disco Biscuits, it was 3, 6, 9, 12 bunks per bus. And now we're doing 2 buses, and our bus actually has, I believe it's 6 bunks, or maybe 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 6 bunks. And so the height from, my bunk to the ceiling, I'm actually able to get in there and sit up. Kind of a luxury of being a guy that's not 6 feet, I guess, for once, because, there's a lot of luxuries in being a taller dude. But I'm able to sit in my bunk, and I can sit straight with my spine straight, and I'm able to get my meditation in that way. So every night I'm able to hit it after the show, work out and then eat and then kind of hang out for a second and then go meditate. It's kind of the routine after the show. So usually people see me and I'm kind of like play the show and I'm out, and I'm not trying to be antisocial. It's just that like, I love seeing everyone, but it's like I have all these things I got to get done, or else if I don't get them done, it's like 5 or 6 in the morning before I get to bed, So, and then I got a show the next day, and I can't be tired, for the show. So, and on this last leg, when we did like New Orleans through Atlanta and Raleigh, I actually worked out before the show, and I would do a series of 100 push-ups, 100 bicycle crunches, 100 burpees, and then I'm forgetting something, but yeah, that was I would do that like, but I would do that, and then we would rehearse, and then we would play the show. So,
well, put it out there as a challenge to all the Touchdowns All Day listeners. Can you handle the Alan Aucoin fitness program? Pre-show, let's see. We'll get during the VIP set. Maybe we'll have Alan lead us all through 100 push-ups, 100 crunches, 100 burpees, and whatever the last exercise is, and see how you do after 3.5 hours of dancing at the show.
I think you could do it, Max. I think you could do it.
I am willing to try. Definitely.
You're pretty ripped, so I think you could do it.
Well, I work hard. See, the thing is, I get to listen to the Disco Biscuits when I work out. I don't know if that would be weird for you. I definitely can't listen to myself on a podcast. I don't know what it's like for you. To what extent do you listen back to shows from tour, whether it's during a workout or just for your own personal reflection on how you've been playing or what's been going on with the band?
Oh, if there's a show that really like spoke to me, that was like amazing, I'll go back and listen to it. I don't listen to it too much. It's kind of like I play it and then it's I don't go back unless there's something about that show that either like I completely fell off the side of the drum kit or something like that, and it was terrible, or if there was something that was like that was one of the best shows ever, and I'll go back and check it out. And sometimes I listen to like, you'll feel like it was the best show ever, then you go hear it and you'll be like, well, I don't remember it. It sounded different when I was playing it. And that works both ways. Sometimes you feel like it's like a kind of a lackluster show and you go listen to it and you'll be like, oh, I was wrong. It was actually an amazing show. So, when you're in the moment on stage, what it actually sounds like away from the stage and the lights and the crowd it translates a little differently. So.
At the end of the Tractor Beam show in Boulder, Mark told the crowd that he felt like this was one of the best tours in the band's career. And that's a sentiment that I've seen echoed by other band members, by fans, by journalists. It's a huge, bold statement considering the Biscuits' 27-year legacy, but it seems like something that a lot of people, myself included, can get behind. The positivity on stage and off has been pretty undeniable. What, if anything, has made this tour feel different for you?
Well, I want to say that this is the best it's ever been since I've been in the band at this moment. Everybody we're real supportive of each other. Everybody's playing really well. Everybody is coming to the show in rehearsals, to work and really put everything they have into it. The new music and the new album is a breath of fresh air and a relief, and the songs that John and Joey have been writing are just great songs. There hasn't been one that I've been like, oh, there's not ever been that feeling. So they're all, not to like be full of myself or anything, but they all are like hits in my mind, like they're Disco Biscuit bangers, and they all feel good to play. They all feel good to listen to and look out in the crowd and see, like, for example, like a chorus to Another Plan of Attack. You can look out there and see everybody smiling and bouncing around. That just gives, to me, it gives a wonderful feeling. And to John and Joey and Magner, they have to like certainly feel proud of themselves for what they accomplished, and the message in the space opera, is just gotta save the world, it's a beautiful message, and I think that translates. And then you could see it in the fans, and the fans give it back to us. So it's like a completely cyclic, like reciprocating thing that's happening for us. And I don't know if John and Joey had that in mind when they were writing it, or if it was just an idea they had and it just kind of happened that way. But it's just been a beautiful process, being a part of it and witnessing what's happening.
So there are lots of differences that I can point to that set this tour apart from tours past. There's new sounds, there's new gear, there's new effects, there's new styles of jamming that you all have been exploring. There's obviously the new material, as you referenced. And from my standpoint, the sum product of all of that is that the band is playing with more conviction and confidence. Collectively and as individuals, it seems like you all are more comfortable at taking risks and putting your necks out there. Absolutely wild moments where Magner will start playing a Very Moon opera song or musical song, that you've never even heard before. Right. But you and Mark, despite it being absolutely the first time you've even heard this, will just jump right in there with abandon. And that sort of courageous, confident playing has really paid off. Aaron actually, in an earlier episode, singled you out in particular for really stepping up and taking charge at key moments in jams. and taking the band into unexpected directions. And I tend to agree with them. And part of what we'll do today is listen to a few moments where you grabbed the steering wheel and just took the band in a really exciting direction that maybe broke from the typical template of a Helicopters jam or what we would come to expect in a particular moment. This is all a preamble to say, is this a fair characterization? Did you feel more empowered or more assertive on this tour than you have in the past?
Yeah, I think that you called it confidence, and I feel like for all four of us, there's been some sort of confidence that has come to us. It's probably from playing more together, more frequently. And, I've been in band for 20 years, so almost 20 years, about 19. And there's like a certain understanding, like a certain, not to like take advantage of it or take it, not give it the respect it deserves, but there's a certain level of like, we've done this so many times that we're able to, it's kind of like meditating. When you first start out meditating, your mind is rambling. Maybe you fall asleep. Maybe you've sat there for 20 minutes and then you're like, what have I been doing for the past 20 minutes? I'm supposed to be meditating. Whereas now when I go to meditation, it's since I've done it so for a little bit now, I'm able to just kind of get into the zone immediately. And if something chirps up, I'm able to be like, all right, well, I'm meditating, I'm not thinking. So it's kind of like that with playing. You're able to get to that zone much quicker. And since we've been playing so much together and for so long, we are able as a band to get there easier and quicker. And when we play, there was like 14 shows in like 17 days or something like that, or something around there. And when you're doing that, every day, it's you're able to step up your levels, and I think we kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it, and it just gives us this confidence, like you were saying. So, and then also with the new material, we're able to kind of spread out our repertoire more, so it gives us a chance to be creative on over more songs than, not that like we had a lack of songs before, it was always like 75-ish in the rotation, but now there's an extra like 20 or so in rotation, and that gives us another element of creativity.
John has spoken about the new show day rehearsal process, and you referenced it earlier when you were talking about your own show day routine. How is that process impacting how you individually and the band collectively are approaching the shows?
That's another, it helps in the confidence. We run through everything backstage. We don't really run through the jams. Maybe we'll talk about some ideas we might try to execute, but usually it's just the song. And when the jam comes up, it's literally like maybe 8 or 16 bars to get a vibe. And then we move on to the next part of the song or to the next song. And being able to, it's one thing to like rehearse before the tour, but if you're on tour for, 21 days or whatever, when you get to that like 18th day and you're going to play a bust out and you haven't rehearsed it, since before you left for tour, well, there's definitely going to be some mistakes that might happen on stage. And so being able to, and there's always in live music, there's always going to be mistakes. And so, especially in improv, and when you're trying to like kind of take risk in every single jam, sometimes, quarterbacks throw interceptions, batters strike out at the plate, things happen sometimes. So, being able to run it backstage gives the opportunity to hopefully make whatever mistake that you were going to make on stage during that song, go ahead and get it out backstage and just freshen up the memory, because the repertoire, the catalog is kind of large, so it takes a lot to keep it, under the fingers and in the memory. So being able to, it's a lot to do day of show, but because we'll play at least 2 hours, sometimes longer, and then we'll do a sound check, and then we'll do a VIP sound check, and then we'll do the show. So it's a lot of playing, which is good for us. Definitely keeps the chops up, but it can be a lot. It can be kind of demanding sometimes, but at the same time, it is important. It's very important to playing a good show, to get to run every single song, even the easiest songs. If we don't run them backstage for some reason, there'll be some sort of slip. So even the easiest of songs we have to run backstage every day.
So you mentioned the changing repertoire, the introduction of the 14 new Revolution in Motion songs. I think we're up to 7 post-Revolution in Motion new songs. There have been new covers. Do you personally right now have a song that when you see it on the set list, you are the most excited about the opportunity to play? And that could be a new song or it could be one of your old favorites. But what's really getting you excited when you see it on a set list these days?
I'm always excited to play Robots or Svengali, any drum and bass jungle song. I'm always excited to play it. Tamarind Alley has been one we brought back. But of the new songs, The Deal is kind of my favorite. The Wormhole is another one of my favorites. And then I like Dino Baby a lot. All the new, Firewheel Exchange, almost every song that has arrived after Revolution in Motion has been, we'll get the song and it'll be like, oh, this is my new favorite. And then, we'll get another song and be, oh, this one's my new favorite, So, which is great. And then, John just sent a drum and bass song that's new. I don't know if that's.
That is going to be, when I heard that, I said, Alan's going to like this. And that's my new favorite song.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about it in any kind of specific detail, but I will say, Alan, how great is that song?
It's awesome. Yes, it was. I didn't know what to expect.
Good.
I saw the subject. Here's a drum and bass one, or I have a drum and bass one, and I was like, all right, let's check it out. And then I was like, holy crap, this song is awesome, man. Yeah.
Instantaneously became my favorite new song.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Something to look forward to when the band's back on the road, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to showcase a jam that to me exemplifies exactly what I'm talking about in terms of that confidence and assertiveness that you displayed all winter and spring. This one is from March 7th, 2024 at the Fillmore in Silver Spring, Maryland. I've got a group of very knowledgeable Biscuits scholars whom I consult whenever I need recommendations on the hottest jams to play for you guys on episodes of Touchdowns All Day. And when I went to them with the assignment of picking the jams to play for you, Alan, they immediately suggested I play this Helicopters, which they have been calling the King Kong Helicopters.
Oh, okay.
What can you tell me about the instruments and or effects that you're playing in order to create these sounds?
This is E-drums.
Interesting. Tell me about the specific samples that you are deploying here.
Okay. So it is a kind of like a Latin percussion sample. So I have like bongos, congas, and then a couple timbali patches, and then I have a little bit of delay on it, and then I'm shifting the pitch of each drum with my left foot through a pedal every now and then. So that's how it's like right there. So it kind of gives it like a deeper, a little bit more, a little depth to it. A kind of psychedelic feel.
Yeah. Is this a set of sounds that you go to regularly? Because it sounded very new and fresh to me, especially in the way that you layer them into this jam. I mean, sometimes I'll hear you use some different E-drum effects as an accent or a fill, but here you've kind of cleared everything else out, and you've got this sort of tribal vibe front and center.
Yeah. I don't know. I go there every now and then, but usually, it's more like a little embellishment here and there. I don't know if maybe Magner said, let's play. I don't know if that was this jam. There was one jam where Magner had said, let's play like kind of schmongly, kind of panish, and we went for it, but I don't know if that was this jam. Sometimes I'll put it in as an embellishment, and if it hits, if it like the guys seem to like it, then I'll do it a little more. And then it's like, you want to make sure you're not getting in the way, and right here we're kind of looping, so there's the E drums were able to, the percussion was able to come out kind of on top without like getting in the way, and then I feel like what John and Magner are doing are kind of like embellishing the E drums a little bit, so it was like supportive to me to like kind of go for it. And this groove here is real cool. Definitely like has a Latin vibe, in my opinion, kind of like trancey. It's kind of serving the ability to be able to like take the percussion sounds to the front, It's fun when I get to do that. I love the pitch bend. I love to be able to do that. It's a lot of fun.
Now, by this point, it feels like everyone is headed toward Digital Buddha.
Mm-hmm.
But Buddha never materializes.
Uh-huh.
Something that I've been hearing happen, I guess I've heard it happen over the course of the entire band's career, but that I've heard quite distinctly over the last few months is where you're essentially playing another song's jam inside a different song.
Mm-hmm.
Like you won't be playing Ring the Doorbell Twice, but you'll be playing a Ring the Doorbell Twice style jam.
Uh-huh.
And here you never actually play Buddha, but it just feels like you're about to play Buddha.
It does.
And it's more than just a tease. It's sort of like adopting the entire style of a song without actually cueing it or playing the lick or whatever.
Mm-hmm. It does. It sounds like we're about to drop into Buddha. Sometimes, well, it'll be on the list and we'll be running out of time. And so we'll have to pull it. I don't know if that was the case there. I think sometimes those chord changes get kind of stuck in like, take Buddha, for example. That's the Buddha chord change. So it's like, it's always in Buddha.
Yes.
And so it's fun to like take them out and put them in another song to give that song a different life, a different vibe. A little renewing.
I know that Aaron has been incorporating new effects and obviously new samples throughout the last tour. To what extent are your E-drum sounds a static set of patches or samples, whatever the appropriate terminology is? And to what extent are you adding or subtracting, changing the palette from show to show or tour to tour?
I do have a set of sounds that are pretty static. I'll add a couple new ones here and there. I have definitely a foundation of sounds that I use and that I've had for a long time since I started playing E-drums in like 2000. But I use two different setups. So the one on my right, all the sounds are in that box, that module. And then the one, and that's the white one, it's called a SPD20. And the one that's in front of me is called a SPDS. And that one is actually just a MIDI controller that I'm using to control sounds that are in Ableton. And that's the one that'll get updated, and I'll bring in different claps or kick drum sounds or snare drums, or, that thirst quencher, I'll sample someone and throw it in there. So that'll get updated, but it's not like I'm bringing a bunch of sounds to every show, because you have to memorize all those sounds, and I can't really like scroll through and cue them up like a DJ, and before I use them. So I have to know them, before I bring them up. So I used to bring a lot of sounds, and I wasn't able to memorize them that fast. And so, I'd go to hit something and it wind up being like a gong or like a timbali when I thought it was going to be like a clap or something. So, you can't make those types of mistakes. So I made myself limit the amount of sounds that I bring in, especially the new ones, just to be particular and to make sure I'm going for what I'm going for. And a secret is this thirst quenchers that I use. I have two different thirst quenchers.
Yes, a fan favorite.
Those are actually Andy Cass, who used to do bass and keys a long time ago, and he's ran lights a few times for us. And they're actually Beef, Sean Gruchek. Those are my thirst quenchers. So when you hear them, the secret's out, Beef. Everybody knows now. So when you hear those, you're either listening to Andy Cass going, or you're listening to Beef go, oh. So,
a Touchdowns All Day exclusive. So you recorded them. Was it actually them cracking open an ice cold Pepsi and taking a slug?
I know for sure that Andy Cass was a Gatorade. I don't remember what Beef used, but for sure he had something, because, he had to make sure it was authentic. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I thought that would have just been something from a sample pack that you would have, I guess Splice didn't exist at the time. But so you're actually going out and recording and creating some of the sounds that you're drawing on from your E-drums.
Yep. Some of them are sample packs.
Amazing.
Yep. And then some of them are just sounds I've recorded like that.
Wow.
Yeah. It's fun.
Well, that jam, I thought, really was a great example of the ways in which you were stepping out front and center, and the rest of the band was coming together to support you, and the sort of selections and choices you were making were inspiring Magna or John or Mark to make choices. I want to, however, roll the clock back a little bit, a few weeks before that Silver Spring show, to the Tractor Beam show at the Fox Theater in Boulder. Now, obviously, that show was significant for a number of reasons, not the least of which was it represented a culmination of developments that had been in motion for years at this point. So I know there's been different iterations of Tractor Beam. Maybe Tractor Beam 1 was instrumental arrangements of classic Biscuit songs. And then maybe Tractor Beam Mark II is 2019, where you're working with Space Cookie and Cloud Chord on recreating the DJ mixes. And then maybe there's Tractor Beam 2.5, which is when you guys wrote Evolve and Lakeshore Drive and M1, and you're kind of writing original Tractor Beam style material. But now Boulder has marked the beginning of Tractor Beam 3.
Uh-huh.
So how would you characterize this latest evolution in Tractor Beam's history?
It is a unapologetic techno band. It's just in your face the entire night. The bass is nice and heavy. Magner's samples are on point. John is like a computer up there looping. And I'm playing an E-kit, which lends itself to be a little bit more electronic, So it's like we are all doing what we could possibly do to actually be what you would hear if you were to go see a DJ. We're all trying to perfectly, in our best way, emulate those sounds that you're hearing. And then, not only is John being a computer, but he's running his guitar through all those synths. So, you have Magner on synths and over on the right, and then you have more synths coming out of John on the left. And that was one of my favorite shows out of the whole tour. I was really nervous to use just an E-kit. And I was a little reluctant to be honest about it, because it's a little limiting, but after listening back, it fit perfectly, in my opinion. And I'm glad they pushed me to use it. And it's just, when I got the recording, I was very proud of what we did. And I didn't expect some of those moments to be what they were. They were just, the pocket was so huge and the sounds were so big, and it felt really cool to me. So, yeah.
Had you ever played a show, whether with the Biscuits, another band as Dr. Famous, where you exclusively were limited to an electronic kit?
Over the pandemic, I used, when I would live stream Dr. Famous shows, I used my E-kit, but I didn't like the way the ride cymbal felt on my E-kit, and I didn't like the way the hi-hats. So I actually substituted in actual ride cymbal and hi-hat. So that Tractor Beam show was the first time I used, everything was, electronic. They didn't want me to use a real ride or a real hat. So, and that was one of the things I was really worried about. The hi-hats aren't as responsive as a normal hi-hat. And you can't, being able to get to the bell on the ride cymbal is a lot easier. And it's, I guess a little more responsive when you're playing on like a regular cymbal as compared to a rubber fake cymbal trigger. But in limiting, that's what I mean when I felt limited, is I couldn't play the hi-hat like I normally play it. And so I had to kind of tone the hi-hat work down, and couldn't necessarily play. Sometimes it wouldn't, like I would go and it wouldn't, the pedal in the hi-hat, they just wouldn't communicate. So sometimes when I would go for that, it would be instead of a, and that was kind of frustrating. But when I listened back to the recording, it was okay. It didn't ruin the jam or anything like that. I would use a different kit the next time we do the Tractor Beam. I would probably try to use the top of the line Roland model, because I played those before, and they are actually very, very responsive as compared to what I have in my basement and what I used at the Tractor Beam show in Boulder. So,
do you feel like you would stay fully electronic for future tractor beam iterations if you are able to use that more advanced Roland technology? Or would you ever want to, or make the case to your fellow band members that you'd want to still be able to mix in the organic with the digital?
I lost that battle. So that battle's over.
There you go.
Yeah, and it's okay. I'm fine with losing the battle, that battle. They were right. It made for a great sound. It gave us a great sound. And it's pretty cool to be on stage and for the only microphone to be Aaron's microphone that he uses to talk to the crowd. There was no mic on the bass, no mic anywhere in the drumland. And, John didn't mic his cabinet. I don't even think he had a cabinet. I think he just went direct. So it's kind of like, when do you ever go see a band and there's just one microphone on stage? It's pretty cool. So yeah, I wouldn't want to do it with the Disco Biscuits. I do feel them pushing me to do it with the Disco Biscuits, but I haven't given up on that battle yet. So we're still battling on that one.
Well, I talked to your original tractor beam coach and more recently Revolution in Motion producer Derek Van Scoten Cloudcord about the tractor beam performance to get his take on how tractor beam has evolved since 2019. And the first thing he said, and I'm going to try to paraphrase him, is Alan is phrasing like a DJ and not a jam band drummer. His sound selection, it's not a rock band sound selection. He's thinking much more like a drum loop inside of a CDJ. Oh, cool. So apart from just different sounds and whatever kinds of adjustments or compensation you have to make for the limitations of the technology, are you approaching your playing differently? Are you trying to play a different style in tractor beam than even you would within a heavily tractor beam influenced jam deep inside the second set of a Disco Biscuits show?
Yes. It's I'm not trying to, sometimes like he called it like jam band drumming. You'll, like if John's doing something during a guitar solo, I'll try to mimic him on the kit and help him phrase the guitar solo, or give him support in phrasing his guitar solo. And in tractor beam, it's really about trying to stay kind of in a box where you're thinking in 16, so 16 measures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, all the way up to 16. And that's usually the loop. And it could be 1632 or 64, 128, but it's all right around that 16, whether you do it twice or 4 times, depends on the phrasing of the song. And I'm trying to keep that as locked as I possibly can during a tractor beam show specifically, because not that all DJs and every single set that they play are only based around 16s, but those are usually, there might be a case where like the song is 16 and then the next break was 8 and then he went back to the song for 16. But usually it's in a grouping of 16 of like that. So, and we usually try to do that at the shows, but it's a little relaxed and it's okay, if we don't stay in that box. But for tractor beam specifically, I try to stay in that box for sure.
I'd like to play a sample, a short moment from that tractor beam show, get you to maybe explain some of what we're hearing, specifically some of what you're doing, where the technology is limiting you, where the technology is enabling you to go in new directions. This is toward the end of the show, the tail end of Abyss, headed into Svengali.
Okay, cool.
Some of the samples that Aaron has been playing here, as well as within the jams, have a very percussive element to them. Mm-hmm. They're almost like another rhythm instrument.
Sure.
Mark's on a keyboard. Aaron's playing rhythmic samples. How does it change your role within the mix when the rhythm section gets shuffled around like that?
Well, if Aaron is doing a real rhythmic sample, and some of the samples actually have drums in them, I have to be careful. You know, I want to give room to Aaron. I don't want to get in the way. And in particular, if there's like kick drums or snare drums that are kind of like in the front, then for while he's playing that sample, I want to kind of get out of the way and just keep it, play what I'm playing, make it as simple as possible. That way what his sample is will speak better, you know. And then as far as Mark, I want to make sure my kick drum is perfect, you know, because I'm trying to listen to what we're doing here. He's playing his bass his keyboard is usually side chained. So when I hit the kick, it'll duck out of the way. And then when the kick's not going is where his sound will come in. So I have to make sure I play as perfect as possible I have a click usually in my ear. And so I try to make sure I'm staying on top of that click. That way it'll come right where we want it, you know, the offbeat. I think Mark has perfect time too. So as a drummer, when you play with the bass player with perfect time, you have to make sure you're on your toes.
So it's well known that one of your favorite artists and biggest influences is LTJ Bookham.
Yes.
And that you love drum and bass and jungle. But to my ears, Tractor Beam is much more aligned with trance and house.
For sure.
Especially from a rhythmic standpoint. Do you feel like there's room for more drum and bass in Tractor Beam?
Always, yes. I do. Especially, I think John's new song will fit really well in a future Tractor Beam show. You know, this Svengali is cool and one of my favorites always. But if you were to compare it to a jungle drum and bass track, it's not really. It's more like a band playing a drum and bass beat underneath a faster moving melody, you know, which is very soaring and very sonorous, very cool. But as far as, if you were to ask LTJ, is this a drum and bass track? He'd probably be like, not really. It's got a drum and bass vibe, but it's not really a drum and bass track. Whereas if you played LTJ that new track that John wrote, he'd be like, yeah, this is hot. This is a drum and bass track. Actually saw LTJ Saturday. He was here in Denver.
Does he still have it?
He's still got it, yeah. He was here at Meow Wolf when I was sick, and it hurt my soul to not be able to go. I had to text him and be like, I'm so sick, I can't stand, I can't go. But luckily, he came the following Saturday, and I saw him at Ophelia's. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Tiny little venue.
Tiny venue, sold out. They brought in extra subs, and the whole room was just shaking from the bass. But it was a great show. Unfortunately, MC Conrad passed away last week, his original MC of 24 years. So that show at Ophelia's was a little mellower. It was still intense and the energy was up, but it was a little mellower than usual.
Yeah.
And I think that was because he was just kind of feeling one of his best friends passing away. He gave a special tribute to him at the end of the show and played a couple tracks with him on there. It was really cool to be able to be there for that.
It feels like we get a lot of Svengali ends these days, and not as many Svengali beginnings. And I know that Svengali isn't LTJ Bookham certified authentic drum and bass, but for the Disco Biscuits, along with Robots and new songs that shall remain unnamed, it's about as close as the Biscuits get on a regular basis. How do we get more drum and bass back into the Biscuits set lists? Apart from you just busting it out unprompted on top of everybody else and weathering the daggers, the looks from your fellow band members until they jump into line and follow you down into some crazy drum and bass excursions.
I don't know the answer to that question. I've been trying to figure it out for 20 years. No, I'm just kidding. That's what makes, Svengali is a beautiful song, and it's, like I said, it's one of my favorites. It definitely makes you feel warm and bright and happy, when those choruses come in. So yeah, I'd love to have more of those and more Robots. I don't know. We need to, I think we know that our fans love trance, and we're always trying to serve our fans as much as possible. And Mark has been, he's been throwing in more drum and bass jams as of late. And I think he's just trying to throw the drummer a bone. He's trying to he knows that it's my favorite style. And because when he throws it in, he's like, this one's for Alan. We're going to play this one tonight for Alan, and then sometimes somebody will be like, maybe whether it's John or Magner, they'll be like, I don't really want to play that one. And Mark will be like, no, this one's for Alan. And we're playing this one for Alan tonight. So, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe from the fans, if we could get more requests from the fans for some drum and bass jungle, that might help. Then I could be like, well, the fans, they said they need it. They know they want it.
Touchdowns all day audience,
right,
activate.
please.
Tweet at Mark and let him know you want him to let Alan out of the cage and go nuts on some of those drum and bass jams. Well, I will say that after that Tractor Beam show ended, there was a huge Alan chant. How did it feel to get that reception from the adopted hometown crowd after a show that really had you go outside of your comfort zone, playing a completely different instrument that you're used to playing on stage?
It was very rewarding, kind of shocking. It may, and to be home for that one, it was a very cool experience, very cool feeling. A lot of work went into that set as far as what am I going to do drum wise, and to feel that appreciation, kind of makes you feel it puts you in the clouds. I was definitely in the clouds for a good week after that show. So, it makes you feel real proud of yourself. So, and the band, Yeah, very cool.
Well, well-deserved praise for you after that night.
Thanks.
Staying with Tractor Beam, but kind of shifting from Tractor Beam, the side project, to Tractor Beam, the style of jamming that increasingly is prevalent within Biscuit shows. It used to be sometimes that Mark would actually write T-Beam jam on the set list. Now, more often than not, it feels like the first time you get an opportunity to open up, the band kind of goes into that space, with Mark switching over to the Moog and Aaron increasingly dropping samples and John going through the Helix with all of the synthesized guitar sounds. I'm curious if you are changing how you're playing in these contexts. You mentioned a moment ago how you have to play in Tractor Beam, not only the kit, but also how your role changes Cloud Chord saying you sounded more like a DJ than a drummer. But night in, night out, when you guys are, in San Diego, for example, where you played that huge jam at the end of the show where Aaron started dropping samples and you guys went for about a half hour in a very tractor beamy like direction.
Mm-hmm.
What's the sort of structuring concept for you and how you approach that style of jamming?
It is very similar to that night in Boulder. And honestly, as the tour progressed, that idea kind of started to become the motive in all jams, is to strictly think in the 16s rather, and not so much try to embellish a guitar solo or a keyboard solo, strictly think as using a drum fill more as rather than an embellishment, but more as like a signal to this is the end of this section and this next section is arriving.
Okay. That was a question I had. The drum fill as a form of interband communication. Mm-hmm. I've got a moment queued up. I'll play it. So many times, especially toward the end of the tour, we heard that exact sequence of events where you did your drum roll or drum fill, followed by Magner hitting the downshift.
Right.
That became one of the signature sounds of the tour, especially by the end. Can you describe to me what exactly is happening there? Because you just said, it very much sounds like you communicating to the other band members and preparing them for something. But what is it that you're preparing them for?
Excuse me. I think I was just outlining the big one, to let everybody know that if we're going to cap the solo or if we're going to move on to another part of the song, this is where the one is. Then in 16 bars, I'll give you another one, But when I do a big fill like that, it's usually to let them know that in case anyone, because you're playing in front of people and you're concentrating on what you're playing, you can get lost sometimes, Your one might be my 9, So your 16s can get flipped. And so in order for everyone to come out at the same time, you need to know where that one is. And so that fill there is just letting them know that this is a 1 of a 16. So make sure we're all in line. That way, when we're ready to come out or move on, we can do it all together rather than one of us kind of taking the lead and playing like teasers to the next part to let everybody know the next part's coming. Because that's cool too, but sometimes it's more of a dramatic shift when we can be in something and then just change on a dime, all together at the same time.
Amazing. I've been wondering about that because so often the thing that happens after that is the big thing, the exciting moment, the unexpected segue, or everything turning a corner with a nimbleness that's mind-blowing because of the momentum that you have going into that fill. The fill then allows you to kind of tightly turn a corner into an entirely new section of the jam. So it's interesting to hear that it's almost like you're resyncing the band. You're saying, okay, here's the one. Let's all get back on the same one. Very, very interesting. Now, John and Aaron mentioned fill and keep going to me.
Yes.
Does that ring a bell? Is that similar, related, something completely different? They said it to me and I nodded like I knew what they were talking about, but I thought it was what we were just hearing. What is fill and keep going?
Fill and keep going. I believe that is actually what we just heard. But it's still based around a 16 to where you could do a fill and a break, So I do a big fill and then we break. and then it's like either the bass stays in or maybe the bass drops out, and then it's just John and Aaron. Or you could do fill and move on. Like if you're playing an A-B section, then you do a fill at the end of the A, and that would be to go to the B. Or you just do a fill to like kind of like pump the room up, to like hype the room up, because with a combination of the drum fill and then that downshift with Aaron that he's doing, and sometimes if Aaron knows the drum fill is coming, he'll play like a riser on top of the drum fill. So while I'm going, he'll do like kind of sound, and then when the drum fill's over, he'll push the downshifter noise, and it gives more of a makes the whole thing more dramatic. But the fill and keep going is really all about, it's about making sure we're all in the same one, but it's really about like trying to raise the energy of the room a little higher, like, and the band basically, because you don't want to do that big fill and then go back to what you were, because it kind of, if that happens, then it kind of makes the fill kind of like, null and void. Like, why did he? I guess he was just outlining a one. That's why he did that long fill there. But I'm hoping when I do a big fill like that across 8 bars or 16 bars, that we're either going to drop or we're going to raise it to the next level.
So you mentioned the risers, and one of the things that Aaron told us about way back when he explained the risers and how he created them, how he uses them, is the importance of him getting the timing right.
Uh-huh.
To what extent are you listening for the risers, or is Aaron following you? I guess
a little bit of both.
Leading and who's following?
I try to lead, for sure, because I try to keep the count, as perfect as I can, and so I'll try to lead, and I'll give him either no fill or little fills here and there to kind of give him an idea of where we are in the kind of matrix. But he'll also get on his talkback mic and say, I'm going to do a riser. And so when I know it's coming, I'll just bust into a fill to like give it support. And sometimes that happens a lot too. He'll just be feeling it. And we know that when he plays that riser, our intentions is to raise the energy of the room. So he's having a good time over there, and he's like, I'm going to do a riser. So it's like, all right, I'll get on a fill with you.
So speaking of Magner and his new bag of tricks, the samples, as we've mentioned, have become a huge part of the band's current sound, from something that was dropped rather infrequently to something now that we go into every show wondering, what's the new sample? Uh-huh. If I understand things correctly, the sample that kicked all of this off, I think, and not that there weren't samples before it even on this tour, but Teardrop, which got its debut in Aspen. According to Aaron, Teardrop was by request for you, one of your favorite songs.
Yeah, I love that.
Could you talk a little bit about your relationship to that track and Massive Attack and trip hop more generally?
That track is I love the groove of that track. I love the vocalist. Her melody is just so beautiful. Really, when I listen to it, it just calms me down. It puts me in a wonderful place. I like, I think I said it, but I'll say it again. The groove between the kick drum and the bass guitar is just so cool, and it's really one of the simplest grooves ever. It's just kind of sounds like a heartbeat a little bit. It's like, it's just kind of a simple song, but yet it hits all the markers, in when you're listening to it. It makes you feel good, and it's entrancing. It kind of feels like it lifts you a little bit. And we were backstage rehearsing, and it's actually Mark had said, somehow we've gotten on the subject of like electronic bands, and Mark had mentioned Massive Attack, and I had said Teardrop is one of my favorite songs. Let's play the Teardrop beat or something. And then all of a sudden, Magner's over there on his computer, and then all of a sudden he's got the vocal sample, which just made the whole thing come together. That was really cool. Yeah, one of my favorite moments on the tour for sure, when we did it backstage and then when we did it at the show.
And now it's become a part of the rotation, it seems. You've now done it, I believe, at least 3 times. And every time you do it, I feel like the response is overwhelmingly positive. It's very beautiful. And rhythmically, it's also very different from what the band has been doing these days, which has been staying in that 132 plus beats per minute, high intensity, really fist pumping, balls to the wall jamming. When you get into that teardrop jam, it's blissful, it's beautiful, it's slower, it's more emotive. It's a very powerful sample. I'd love to know, along similar lines, are there any other songs, bands, genres that you'd like to give that same Disco Biscuits reinterpretation treatment to?
I was gonna say one more thing about Massive Attack. The Andy Gagadine, which I believe plays in the bass, or used to play in the bass way back. I want to say his brother's on that track, and I just am a big Andy Gagadine fan. So anytime I can, share a little piece of his life, whether it's him or his brother, it's always cool for me. More bands that I'd like the Biscuits to cover. Let's see. Well, I think it would be cool if we picked out a couple Pendulum songs. Because they're a band, they're a drum and bass band, so it's doable. I'd like, and I don't know if this will go over very well, but I think it would be cool to take some Billie Eilish songs, and maybe we could do them like Tractor Version 0.2 or 2.0, or maybe even, I guess that would be 1.0, where we don't necessarily sing the song, but we play it as a melody. Or maybe Magner could sample it, I don't know how that would go. I mean, I didn't expect Massive Attack to go as well as it did with the fans, but it seemed to go really well. So maybe something like that with the Billie Eilish could be cool too, because some of her tracks are electronic, and the bass is very thick, and it really bumps in the car in your home stereo. So I bet it would sound great at a Biscuit show. There's I think the band is called Jitwam. They're more of like on the soul R&B tip, and everything they play is so groovy. I'd love to cover songs by them. I think that would be cool. Different vibe for the Biscuits for sure, but I feel like they would go over really well. I think it would be cool to cover some, this is probably not going to be taken very well, but like, I'm going to say dubstep, but when I say dubstep, I don't mean like the typical dubstep you think of when you think of a dubstep track. I think more of like bass music, so like if you were to go to your streaming music app of choice and you put in bass music, you're not necessarily going to get like this Skrillex banger or whatever. You're going to get something that is like extremely musical. Not that Skrillex is a musical, because I think he's very musical, but a lot of times dubstep gets a really bad rap for not being musical. It's a lot of screeching and like, that type of stuff. So but that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. Something like, if I were to pull up my list here, it would be like Crystal Skies, Pauline Her, people like that. I think it would be cool because that's just so different than what the Biscuits have done, but it would still be in the electronic realm, that I think that the Biscuits could pull it off. I guess you would call it melodic bass is kind of what I'm thinking. But yeah, it'd be cool to hear a couple Pendulum songs, maybe even an LTJ Bukum song. That would be cool. I mean, any you could.
I was going to ask, is there a specific Bukum song that you would be especially keen to cover or sample with the Biscuits?
Oh, that's tough. It would have to be probably something, from like, it'd have to be like early Bukum, and it's tough because I don't want to say the wrong one, and then, I mean, any of them would be fine as far as I'm concerned. Atlantis, any of his progression sessions, Roads to Freedom, Watercolors, Journey Inwards, music specifically would be cool.
It sounds like you've got an entire LTJ Bukum set list in mind. Perhaps a future Tractor Beam set, Tractor Beam, the drum and bass era.
My gosh, that would be great. Yes. I'd love to do a drum and bass LTJ Bukum album for Tractor Beam. I think that would be great. And I'd love to be like, hey, Danny, come check it out. We're playing your music. I think he would love it too. Yeah.
Well, one of the coolest things about the samples is that it allows you guys to dip into genres that you normally wouldn't touch. So trip hop with Massive Attack, boy bands, New Kids on the Block, hip hop, right, which occasionally dips into the Biscuits repertoire, but you were sampling Outkast.
Yeah.
It's interesting in that it switches up the palette quite a bit. Lets you play different rhythms, lets John and Aaron tap into different types of melodies. Any other, apart from obviously your longstanding love for Teardrop, any of the other samples particularly resonate with you?
Yeah.
Or that you remember playing and thinking, this is really working, I really like this?
The Outkast, the Fresh and Clean, so fresh and so clean.
Yeah.
That was a really cool moment because I'm from, Georgia, and you can't live in Georgia and not love Outkast, there's something wrong with you if that's the case. And to be in Atlanta playing with an Outkast sample definitely gave you it gave me like a, well, not Outkast, but Big Boy he's played with the Biscuits, or opened for the Biscuits, and he's played on at least one Camp Bisco. And my wife, Sandra, has actually danced on stage with Big Boy on both occasions.
Amazing.
Yes, amazing. His drummer and I hit it off. He's a great drummer, and we just shared very mutual respect for each other. And so, I hold them very close to my heart, and it was cool. He was backstage wondering what samples to do, and he was going through, I think he had like a TLC sample going, and I was like, man, we have to play Outkast, And then he's like, okay, well, what tracks? What songs? And then we started rattling off songs to him, and he started going through them, and I was like, well, you have to get Fresh and Clean. And he was like, yeah, oh, well, we'll get there. And then he picked out a couple with maybe Miss Jackson and a couple others, and I was like, we have to do Fresh and Clean. You have to do Fresh and Clean. And he was like, okay, fine, for Alan, we'll do Fresh and Clean. And then he had actually told us he was going to put it in a different spot during the show, and then when he dropped it at the show, and none of us were expecting it, but it couldn't have been a better spot where he picked to do it. So, and it was just so cool. I mean, yeah, I'd love to have Andre and Big Boy on stage with us and have them, freestyle or like sing sing their songs over Disco Biscuit jams. But since we can't necessarily do that, the next best thing is to have Magner drop their samples where we can, where he can find the best place for them. And I feel like in Atlanta, he really nailed it. I feel like most of the time he usually nails it, but there was something about that Atlanta show when he put the Fresh and Clean. And then I don't think people exactly, there was a few people that knew exactly what was going on immediately, but it took a couple rotations for people to be like, is this happening? This is actually happening. It's actually Outkast on top of the Disco Biscuits. So that was a very cool moment.
The So Fresh and So Clean sample worked so well in Atlanta that you guys actually busted it out the next night in Raleigh. So I take it this was not planned.
Not
for
planned.
You at least.
Nope.
But it works so well.
Yeah, it's very cool.
As you start launching the band into Cyclone.
Yeah, very cool. It gives, yeah, so cool. It's like a new life to the song. And for this song in particular, I can remember numerous drives or numerous like occasions where we're listening to the song. And so when we sample that song on top of a Disco Biscuit song, you're getting, and I'm sure this happens for everybody, you're not only getting the moment you get in the jam, the feeling that you get listening to the Biscuits, but then it also brings in that nostalgic feeling of what you had for that sample before. And you put those two feelings together and it just really elevates it, It's fun to cover.
The execution on this is about as perfect as you could hope for, I feel like.
Thanks. It just makes me smile. Yeah, it's so cool. You almost hope that Andre and Big Boy will hear it.
You got to make that happen.
Yeah, that would be so cool.
And then the absolutely flawless shift into that Cyclone.
Yeah.
That was just sitting there all along, waiting for the sample to finish. I mean, Cyclone has always been a showcase for you, but the Cyclones, as of late, you've been an animal on. Is Cyclone as fun for you to play as it is for us to hear you play?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to play. Yeah, it's faster than your normal trance-ish style beat. And it's just got so much energy, and you can't let go. You can't you have to be on top of it. You have to be ahead of it. Yeah, it's challenging, so it's a lot of fun. And then the Cyclone
of. No, you go ahead.
The Cyclone, the one we played in Austin, I think it was September. I believe it was September. It was right after our summer tour. That was the first time I started playing that type of beat where I'm playing all those 30-second notes on my auxiliary snare drum that we call the dirty snare, because it's tuned very, very low and has like kind of a wetter sound. And then when I did it, John turned around and looked at me and kind of gave me a look of like a look of approval, but also a look of like, what the heck are you doing back there? And then he kind of like echoed it on his guitar and took it to the next level. And since then I've been trying to emulate that. And I don't know how long I'll do it because I don't want it to get stale, but that's kind of been the mission objective in every time we play a Cyclone, is to bring it to that place that we brought it in that one Austin Cyclone.
Well, people definitely noticed in Austin. I was in the room that night. It was a real highlight of a 2-night stand that was filled with really significant highlights. Was that just a spontaneous creative decision on your part? Something you had worked on in rehearsal? How did that come about?
Just spontaneous. I don't know. It just happened. I just started doing it and I was like, hey, this sounds pretty cool. Let's keep going. And then it kind of turned into like, it became the vibe of the jam for a second, you know, and then it became like a way to raise the energy higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. And then I think John kind of waited to bring in the melody a couple times to actually make the energy rise even higher and kind of bring the tension up before the release of the melody came in. So it was just a real cool vibe that we both created that night, you know.
Well, it's added a tremendous amount to a song that, as I said, always gave you an opportunity to shine. But with the addition of this new flavor, has made each Cyclone something to look forward to.
Cool.
You see a Cyclone in a set list, you know it's going to be pretty exciting. So we talked earlier about how the band's repertoire has expanded quite dramatically in recent years. Since 2021, we're closing in on 30 new songs. What's your process for incorporating new material into your repertoire, or for incorporating older material that you might not have played in 10 plus years back into your skill set?
It definitely has to be something that is started at home. And then we actually, these days, we rehearse on a program called Far Play, and it allows us to rehearse from, like, I can stay in Colorado and rehearse with the guys in Pennsylvania, in Philly. And there's not really latency in this program, and we're able to have a rehearsal. So you definitely, with all the new songs or bust outs, we have to be able to rehearse before we get out on the road, and then use the day of show rehearsal to kind of freshen up what we worked on in those rehearsals before we left for the road. But yeah, you have to, there's so many songs, and they're not all the same. You know, there's breaks in some songs, there's not breaks in other songs. There's tempo shifts up and down, you know, and you have to know where to do those. And that to do it, it's hard to just try to listen to it on the road and then execute it at the show. You know, you definitely have to do your homework.
What about for the new Revolution in Motion songs, which in some cases were being debuted very much as works in progress? Were you getting demos from John during the songwriting process so that you wouldn't have to come in cold?
Yes. He usually he'll send, it's almost once a week. It's not that regular, but it is almost once a week where he will send what he's been working on. And definitely when you get it, you have to commit it to, you know, the memory bank and be prepared to play it live. And it just feels good as a band to have that, you know, when you're walking into rehearsal or walking into the show, knowing that you've been grooving on this track that you got sent a few weeks ago, and now you're about to debut it. But yeah, for Revolution in Motion, we received those songs. They were little baby songs when we were first getting them, like 2 years ago. They were nothing like they turned out to be. I mean, the roadmap was there, but what they eventually became themselves, I don't know if anybody really saw them as they are now.
I know that you and Mark came into a professional recording studio toward the end of the album recording process to lay down your drum and bass tracks. What was that process like? Because I know that for a lot of the initial demos that we've played here on past episodes of the podcast, a lot of it was done just John on his computer. Or John on his computer with an assist from Aaron laying down some keyboard sounds. But the drums and the bass were very much scratch. They were very much there for reference only, awaiting you and Mark coming in and putting the real thing on. Did you feel like you were trying to recreate the sample-based tracks John had laid down in his home studio, or were you reinterpreting and trying to put your own touch on things?
The initial thought is to serve the song as close to possible that John has created. So no matter if I think something might fit better or sound cooler or whatever, that's just an opinion, first of all. And I'm trying to, he took the time to write that part, so I want to give it the respect it deserves and learn that part. And a lot of times it starts that way, and then it'll, like you were saying, Revolution in Motion songs kind of were sculpted through the jams over a process of like a year and a half or so of shows. And so that initial debut of the song, I will for sure, it'll change organically as we keep playing it and keep playing it and keep playing it. I will notice things that work differently and try to remember that. And then John will give me his opinion on whether or not he likes it or whether or not I should go back to the original drum beat, but initially I will try to stay as close to his studio track as possible, just so he can, because for him he wants to hear what it sounds like as a band. And so if I come in with like a completely different drum beat, doesn't matter if I'm like the greatest drummer that's ever walked the face of the earth, he still wants to hear the drum beat that he wrote. So I try to honor that and stay as close to it as possible. And then as we start, the guitar part will change a little bit, the bass part will change a little bit, the keyboard part, and as that stuff starts to happen, I'll start to change my line just as in response. And if there is something different that I'm hearing, he'll give me the opportunity to play it for him, and he'll give me his opinion whether or not it's like something I should continue forward in trying to pick out as a different part, or he'll tell me, no, I'm not really feeling that. Can you try something else? So
now there's a whole new category of songs that are based on Biscuits jams, including some like Fire Will Exchange, Doorbell, and Dino Baby,
right,
where John took the stems from the multi-track recordings made at the shows and remixed them and created new compositions. What's it like for you to indirectly play this role in the songwriting process, and then to take those moments of spontaneous improvisational genius that the four of you achieved on stage, and to now turn them into something that can be replicable within the context of, Doorbell or one of the new songs?
It's pretty cool because it's like I wrote the song. I had a hand in writing the song and didn't even know it. Sometimes, I think John is a great producer, and this might sound not exactly how I'm trying to make it sound. So I apologize ahead of time. But I think some of the stuff he's produced, drumming, speaking, has been phenomenal. But then some stuff I'll think, well, a guitar player wrote that drum part, just like if I was writing a guitar part, he'd be like, well, that's the drummer trying to be a guitar player, So, and I would expect him to like make it sound like a real guitar player part, And so there's been a couple of those times here and there, not a lot, but every now and then I'll be like, oh, well, that's just the guitar player writing the drums. And when I heard the drum parts that he took from these jams and stuff, it was like, oh, I'm familiar with that beat. I know that beat. I played that beat. I know exactly how this beat goes. So it was just, it didn't take any time to like digest. It was like, oh, I know exactly what's going on here. I know what's going to happen next, and I know how to phrase this, as a drummer. I already know what to do here. So it was kind of like that level of understanding when you hear a song for the first time that wasn't there. I already understood what was happening and what needed to happen to the next part. So,
well, two of the songs that came out of that process, the aforementioned Dino Baby and Ring the Doorbell Twice, from my standpoint, really defined so much of the Why We Dance tour. As I said earlier, there were many moments throughout the tour where you might not have been playing Dino Baby, but you might as well have been. Right. You were in a kind of in the mode or the mood or the soundscape of Dino Baby. Same thing for Doorbell. I think Doorbell, especially during the first leg of tour, there were many a night when you guys were jamming and I kept thinking, okay, at any moment they're going to play Doorbell, but it never ended up getting played that night. You just played a Doorbell jam within the context of another song. Do you have any thoughts on why those songs have been so generative and impactful in the repertoire? It seems like they've really opened up a lot of new opportunities and possibilities for the entire band.
I think the grooves in those songs in particular are so infectious, so, fun to play that you just can't get enough of them. And it makes you want to play them kind of all the time. And you feel good when you play them and the band sounds really good. It's just like, you want to emulate that as much as possible, even if it means, like you're saying, play a jam that's not Dino Baby, playing like a Dino Baby jam in the middle of like Buddha or something like that, it'll give the Buddha a different voice and maybe a new life, and it's giving us the opportunity to play something we're really feeling, at that moment.
Here's an example of what I'm talking about. This is the March 14th show in New Haven, Connecticut.
Okay.
The second set, Caterpillar, Into Fire Will Exchange. And of course, the Dino Baby synth sound is very prominent. But just the general vibe.
Right.
And I like what you said about you like playing those songs, you like the place they take you to, so that even if they're not on the set list, you still want to go to that place.
Right.
So you might tap into those changes or to that set of E-drum patches or for Aaron, the synthesizer tones, because they make you guys happy to play and they elicit a specific response from the crowd.
Right. Yeah. They're cool. So it's fun to play it. And it's just so thick. It really hits,
I'm going to let this play as I take us toward the conclusion of our interview. You've got some downtime now that you're not sick anymore.
Yeah.
How do you plan on using the time in May and June when you're off the road?
Well, I definitely want to get in as much working out as possible because I have my weights here at the house, and it's easier to run and bike out here than it is in the middle of a place where I don't know where I'm at specifically. So, and I go much harder when I'm home. So, because I know that on the road, I won't be able to get the workout I'm really looking for. So I'm looking forward to working out. I'm looking forward to time with my daughter. She's going to be getting out of school on May 23rd. So I'll go do a show, and then I'll come back home and she'll be out of school. So we'll spend a lot of time together. And then I actually, I get to see my meditation teacher once a week when I'm home. His name is Jim Strunk. So it's always a breath of fresh air to be in the same room with him. I actually started playing guitar. I've never played guitar, and I've always wanted to. And a few weeks ago, I was sitting here, and I was like, well, thinking about playing guitar, and I was like, how many times am I going to think this until I finally do it? So I decided, you don't know unless you try. So I got an acoustic guitar a couple of weeks ago, and almost 2 weeks ago, and I've been playing it every day. And I took a lesson with one of my friends, and Mike, and I'm trying. I got calluses building up on my fingers, and it'd be cool to, I don't know what to expect from it yet, where I want to go with it, but it's just another way to be creative, and I'm enjoying it. And it's a different way to, I've played little keys and drums and clarinet when I first started, but when you play drums, you think very specifically about, your role in the band. So I'm looking forward to thinking as a guitar player, quote unquote. The drummer inside of me is like, what is wrong with you? If we play drums, we do not play guitar. So I'm having to put him at bay and be like, I'm still playing drums. I just want to learn the guitar. He's mad at me at the moment, but I'm looking forward to being able to think on that side of the box, rather than where I've been for the past 30 something years.
Be honest, is this in any way inspired by the recent footage that leaked of John tearing it up on the drum kit in his basement?
No, I have not seen that. But I did think it would be cool because I know he plays drums. And so does Mark. And I think I've seen Magner on a drum kit. But I thought it would be cool if I could it's going to take a while, but if I could get my level of guitar playing to, maybe I could play a song or something, and John could play drums for that song, and I could jump out and play guitar for a second. Thought that would be cool. I can hear Mark right now being like, hell no. And I could hear the fans saying, please don't let this happen. But it would only be for like 3 minutes, and I think it would be real fun. And it won't be the most epic thing ever, but I think it would be real, I think it would be a real cool vibe. Just for like
maybe a little secret set at Biscoland. You on guitar, Barber on drums, Mark on keys.
Totally.
And Magner on maracas.
Yeah, or a guitar in the middle.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What's going on with Dr. Famous? Any upcoming Dr. Famous gigs to promote or to tell us about?
No, I haven't. I've been playing. I played one here in Denver when we did the shows here. I did a late night, but I don't really have any on the books. Me and my friend Eduardo, Glyphics producer, we send stuff back and forth, but it's just kind of for us. We're not really doing too many shows right now. There's a band I used to play with before the Disco Biscuits called Skydog, and we played a show in Atlanta March 2nd, and we're going to do another show in Athens on November 30th. So I work on stuff with them on that program Farplay I was telling you about that we used to work to rehearse with the Disco Biscuits. But other than that, yeah, I'm not. It's mostly Disco Biscuits, and then, a little acoustic guitar here and there. So, and then Skydog, and then some like groovy stuff with. I have another project I'm working on with that guy Mike. I was telling you that taught me my one guitar lesson. His name's Mike Desmond. He's a friend of mine from Berkeley College of Music, and then the bass player from Skydog is a friend of mine from Berkeley College of Music, Aaron Goldberg, and then Christy Bennett is a vocalist that went to another friend of ours from Berkeley College of Music, and she lives in San Diego and kind of has her own thing going on out there. And the three of us, Mike, Aaron, and I, have been writing tunes to give to her to put vocals on. So we've just been kind of messing with that. So that's been cool. And we'll get together every now and then on Far Play and rehearse together. So and work on tunes.
Well, we'll look forward to hearing some of the fruits of that collaboration, hopefully in the not too distant future. Speaking of the future, what are you most looking forward to this summer and beyond?
Well, this probably won't be a big surprise, but I am looking forward to seeing LTG Bukum at Secret Dreams Festival. We already talked about it on Saturday. I was talking to him about it. Hopefully we're not. I don't think we are playing at the same time. He was worried that was going to happen, but I don't think so. But we are playing on the same day. And I hope that the day of show rehearsal will not interfere with my ability to catch his set. So that's probably the one I'm looking forward to the most, to be honest. We have some great festivals coming up. But anytime I think he's just like a guru of drum and bass, he's like a Buddha of drum and bass, and to be able to be in his presence and talk with him and then watch him do his thing is just it's a gift, and we should, accept that as many times as we possibly can. He almost played Discoland. Unfortunately, the night before he had a gig in Brighton, so England, so didn't work out. But he was trying to make it work out, but it didn't. So maybe next year it'll happen.
Well, Biscoland 2 is certainly going to be one of the highlights of the Disco Biscuits community's summer, as well as the entire jam band community. Give your plug for Biscoland. For those of us, myself included, who missed the first edition, what makes Biscoland special? What should we be looking forward to? What are the best aspects of it that will convince everyone out there who hasn't already pre-purchased their tickets to get off their butts and make it up to upstate New York?
Well, there'll be there's another tractor beam set. So that we have a very we have our work cut out for us, because that last tractor beam set was a great one. So this one has to be better. So, and then we have biscuits every day. So I mean, it's three nights of biscuits in the same place and a tractor beam set. That's going to be. I'm looking forward to that one. So.
Well, we all are, and I'm especially excited to see how you approach tractor beam both at Biscoland and then also the recently announced return to one of my favorite venues I've ever seen you at, the Pine Creek Lodge out in Montana. So lots to look forward to, lots of great music to catch up on while the band is off the road, a great festival season, and so much other exciting stuff happening, including Alan taking up the guitar. So
it's very exciting.
Alan, thank you so much for taking time out to join us on Touchdowns All Day.
Thanks for having me. It was a blast. Lots of fun.
In our last episode, Touchdowns All Day 61, we kicked off a new segment showcasing Biscuits fans' covers of Biscuits songs. A few days after I dropped that episode, I saw a video online that I immediately knew was going to be the second installment of this series. Here's the Ross Street School Chorus with their rendition of Humu Humu Nuku Nuku Apua. We're fortunate enough to be joined on the podcast today by the director of the Ross Street School Chorus, Mark Filoramo. Mark, welcome to Touchdowns All Day.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
First things first, what is the Ross Street School Chorus?
So it's an elementary chorus comprised of fourth and fifth graders. It's not all, it's a select group who wants to do it, and we rehearse twice a week. So I guess the age range is probably some are 9 years old in fourth grade and up to like 11. So, between 9 and 11-year-olds.
Where is the school?
It's in Woodbridge, New Jersey. We're about maybe half an hour, 40 minutes out of New York City. So,
how long have you been working with this group of students?
I've been teaching at this school this is my 12th year. And in the school district, this is my 16th year. So I was at another school before.
What type of material do you and the students typically perform?
It depends. I try to keep it fresh, especially the spring concert. We do like a holiday concert with, winter songs and
And then we do the spring concert. I try to always keep that fresh. I've actually never repeated a song. Unless it's like I've written a bunch of songs for them, like school songs, and so sometimes I'll repeat the school songs because that's just kind of how we end it. But I try to keep it fresh. We've done Beatles review. I did my master's thesis on Hawaiian music, which of course the Humu Humu Nuka Nuka Wapua would be on my radar. So I did a whole Hawaiian show one year. I did a fish show. I wrote a fish musical. We did 14 different songs.
So you teach choir, you compose. What is your musical background?
So like in college, I studied actually like opera, and like classical voice, singing tenor. So a lot of everything. Actually, there's the classical side and learning all, the structured voice singing. But this concert is actually, I don't know if I had said it, it was my 50th birthday this week. And I was like, you know what? I want to, people always ask me about the songs I write. And they say, how do you get influenced to write these? So I said, like, why don't I do a whole show of songs from people that have influenced me. I've loved the Disco Biscuits for years. I started with Sgt. Pepper from the Beatles. I've loved them forever. I did Spirit of Radio from Rush and Roundabout from Yes, which is a very hard one. That and the Lizards were probably the two hardest from Fish. Humu Humu, they just like loved from the beginning. But yeah, so my point is, this kind of answers your question. The bands I liked were all in this show. It was kind of like there to show who I am, and who were the first 50 years of my life on that aspect. But yes, I do have a classical background as well.
Well, having that classical background, the Biscuits, I would imagine, play in modes and play material that very much is in your wheelhouse.
Oh yeah, composed. I love it. I mean, all of it. And the classical set and all that. It's just like mind-boggling. To me, it's just it's the two worlds combining. And there's the elements of prog in there. I hear like I don't know. I think they created a whole sound. I mean, I hear so many younger jam bands trying to, they have to have an element of that, the dub beat in there. It's just become a part of the whole jam scene, created Transfusion, so it's just so cool, nothing like it.
How long have you been seeing the Disco Biscuits?
I think 2001 was my first show at the Roseland Ballroom. Maybe
oh, wow.
December 29th. Yeah, with Sammy still on the kit. Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah. Oh, so good. The Eulogy opener. I was hooked immediately.
And about how many shows do you think you've seen since 2001?
I don't even know. Maybe in the 20 or so. I'm not 100% sure. I have to go look through the count.
Do you have a favorite Disco Biscuits song?
Favorite song? That's a tough one. There's a few. I have a few I've never heard that I've never heard Little Lie live, and I've always been chasing that. I love that. I've always loved all the Hawaiian ones, like Humu Humu, Haleakala Crater. I actually have 2 timeshares in Hawaii. I'm going back this summer, and it's just cool standing in the Kamiole sands and like, hey, I know this, and all of it. I know from when they were there, like. It's just, I feel that connection there. So a lot of the Hawaiian songs mean a lot to me. But yeah, I've always loved like Jigsaw Earth, and actually that was one of the ones I thought about doing for the concert, was Jigsaw, but Huma Huma was just clearly the right choice. So.
Well, that was my next question. Out of such an exhaustive, huge catalog, how did you settle on Humu Humu as the Biscuit song that the students were going to cover?
So, a lot of it is appropriateness. I didn't think Memphis would work, although we used to do that with my band back in the day. Let's see, Hope was on Hope, Jigsaw Earth, Home Again. Trying to think of the ones that but once I went through Humu Humu and like looked at the words, I'm like, I just knew they would love it. I had no doubt. Like, I tried to do a Pink Floyd song. I just couldn't find one that was it was on the cutting block. I was like, yeah, a lot of influence from Pink Floyd, but I can't find a song that'll work for the kids. That's like, will fit, has to be kid appropriate and something they'll like, And
you didn't necessarily want a bunch of kids singing in unison, "Hey teacher, leave those kids alone."
No. Thought about it. It'd be kind of funny, but I don't think that would go over too well with my school district. But it was kind of hard finding the right song. That one was, when I thought of that one, I'm like, oh, this is great. It's a harder one to find good recordings. So I didn't show them any recording of it. I just wanted them to hear it from me so that they don't, I usually do that. If I'm teaching from a band or something, I'll change the key. This, I didn't change the key. I just brought it up an octave. But I'll change the key. And I just want them to hear it the way I want them to perform it so that they're used to it, And then this is Disco Biscuits, influence. When I teach vocal music, I loop my voice through a looper. So I play through rhythms and then I'll loop it so that they can always hear the harmony and I can always sing with them on the part. So when I put the other groups together, they're used to hearing the other harmonies. Especially younger kids, it's hard for them to hear harmonies, or if you're layering different vocals, doing like a round or something like that. Once they're used to it and where they fit in with it. I started doing that a couple of years ago. It's just a total game changer. People always use loopers for, a guitar over or band over, but using it to teach vocal music is awesome. Highly recommend.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So.
Well, I was going to ask if you had played them a specific live version to introduce the song to them, but you have already answered that question.
Yeah.
What were the students' impressions of Humu, and whether or not they knew that this was the Disco Biscuits they were hearing? I would imagine for most, if not all of them, this was unfamiliar material. How did they respond?
Good question. Yes, very unfamiliar in many ways, but it was probably early January because I had just finished the holiday show, and then I introduced it. They all had the same puzzled look because of the word humu humu nuku nuku wapua. So what I ended up doing was color coding humu, all different colors, so they could break up the, just like the Hawaiian, like even the pu and kids, like, you do something and then they just are like, they don't get it at all, and then the next time they could just do it, like, because they're like sponges. So, and then right away, like I was saying to Brownie texting, I was like, they just ask for it constantly. Like it's supposed to just be a chorus time, but like we get into class, like, can we please sing it? Can we please sing it, Keisha, the other kids? So it ended up just being, it was just nonstop. So they really learned it well, which was good because the verses have a lot of words too. So teaching kids who are a lot are delayed from COVID, from being home for a year and a half, 2 years. So, teaching them songs with just a lot of words is quite a challenge. So I think it's like educationally, such an awesome thing to let them read, and it tells a fun story, so yeah, doing it, they just kind of fell in love with it, so it didn't take long to get they got the refrain quick, but getting the words was a little bit, but yeah, over and over, the repetition, they jumped right into it.
Well, the Disco Biscuits fan community has been abuzz since the video dropped. I know that there was a Fish cover. There have been other songs that have been uploaded to YouTube where people have been responding. Different accounts have been reposting. Talk to me a little bit about the response you've received. You can start with In the Auditorium, and you can then expand it outward to the world at large, including even the man you mentioned just a moment ago, the composer and lyricist of Humu, Mark Brownstein.
Yeah. Well, I'll back up. I'll start with going back to January. I messaged Mark, or maybe around February, and said, hey, just like, I figured it was just like a shot in the dark. He's on Facebook. I didn't know if he actually gets the message. So I said, just letting you know, my chorus is practicing Humu Humu Nuka Nuka Wapua. And he, like the day later, was like, really? I'm interested to see, could you send me a video when you're done? I was like, yeah. So I had told the kids that from the beginning, they were very excited about it. And, anyhow, I'm off track. Wait, give the question one more time.
What kind of reactions have you received from the parents, from the community, from Biscuits fans, and from the band itself?
Okay. Yeah. So, the parents, I got a lot of interesting reactions at the show. My favorite was a guy came up, him and his brother. They're like, next year you got to do You Enjoy Myself. I was like, okay, because I'm in a room full of, I got 130 kids in the chorus, so the room is packed. A lot of people are probably just like, another song, but some people are totally into it. And the other thing they said, we love the set list. So we knew all the songs, and I started cracking up. I said, I have never heard an elementary school, recital or concert being, with a set list. It's always just song selections or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I thought that was kind of cool that it came across as like a set list. Once Brownie sent out that tweet or whatever we call X, the site formerly known as Twitter, I saw that has 20,000 views on it already, which is amazing. And people just jumped on it. I think, I think it's just cool to hear, something introduced to another generation, or just something different. A lot of people were just like, this is amazing. I'm like actively crying. Me and my husband are crying. Like, okay, wow. I put out stuff also for the Fish stuff, because we did the lizards and Everything's Right. And, again, I got just such a big response just from people through some of the Facebook groups. And actually, I put the Spirit of Radio from Rush onto a Rush group I'm on. They're loving it too. If anything, it's just such a cool, it makes my job worth it. It just makes it, bigger than it is. It makes it, not just teaching music. It's about spreading love through music and spreading joy. We have so much every day that just tears us down. And if it made somebody smile, I was like, God, it's worth all the hair I'm losing. But yeah, just a great response. I've just been, and when I saw Barber post it, I was like, oh, this is crazy. Then I knew it was starting to catch, and then I just couldn't believe it. Somebody else had told me, they're like, Barber just posted. Like, I got a text. I'm like, you're kidding me, and the Disco Biscuits is for the kids. That was great. I was dying.
Well, all of the praise and kudos you've been receiving are well-deserved. It was a beautiful performance. Do the kids know that they are causing this sensation? Or are they aware? Is it getting to their heads? Are they becoming divas?
Today I was showing them, I said, I know I never take my phone out in class. I said, but I just want to show you. I showed them my interchange with Brownie. And then I just showed them just the screen of the tweet. And I said, you see how many views there are? And I said, 20,000 views. And then one of the classes, like, I got 90,000 views on mine. I was like, well, excuse me.
Wow.
Most of them were like, this is awesome. I'm like, I just said to them, like, you guys are basically famous. I'm like, I got to treat you guys differently now.
We'll leave it to a fifth grader to make us feel totally out of touch.
Right.
Mark, one last question. Any chance we might see the Ross Street School Choir opening for, or maybe even backing the Disco Biscuits on summer tour or fall tour or what have you?
Well, we would need an invite, and I'll work on the rest. If that's really a possibility, I'll do my part. I'll get, probably be some parental, whatever permissions needed. But yeah, I mean, I'm open for anything.
Just so long as you tell the children to stay away from the balloons. They are not that type of balloon.
That's right. Exactly.
Well, I can't do anything other than exclaim my praise and my appreciation for this. And I know the band loves it. I know the fans love it. Mark, thank you so much, not only for coming on the show, but for spreading good music to the next generation. A lot of people, as we get older, we start to wonder, will the kids appreciate music like we liked? And our parents felt that way and their parents felt that way. But it's nice to know that teachers like you are out there making sure kids get exposed to wonderful music like Rush, like Fish, and like the Disco Biscuits.
Awesome. That's my pleasure. You nailed it on the head, what I was trying to do. So, and thank you to the Disco Biscuits and all the bands, and the future of live music. So awesome. My pleasure.
Well, Mark, I hope to see you at a show sometime this summer.
Absolutely.
Band's coming through Atlantic City. Maybe you get all the kids on the school bus and bring them out for a field trip.
It's the safest place on earth. Everybody come on out. Yes.
Exactly. Thanks again to our guests this episode, Mark Filorama, the Ross Street School Choir, and the one and only Dr. Famous Alan Aucoin. Touchdowns All Day is an Osiris Media production. Check us out on the web at www.touchdownsallday.com. This episode was written, produced, and edited by me, Max Dawson. Special thanks to John Barber, Crunk Mike, Matt Dwyer, everyone over at Osiris Media. Once again, we'll ask you to please consider leaving a review for Touchdowns All Day on the podcasting platform of your choice. And while you're at it, share an episode with a friend. Got feedback, questions, comments for John, me, anyone involved in the show? Call us on the Touchdowns All Day hotline, 424-666-SIYD. John's at Barber Shreds, and I'm at FY Maxwell on Instagram and X. You could also hit us up at Touchdowns All Day on Instagram or at TDADbaby on X. I'd like to give my special thanks to everyone who helps bring Touchdowns All Day to you every week. That includes Crunk Mike, Tara Gracer, the band photographer, Ben Baruch and Andrew Kaplan at 1111 Management, the Touchdowns All Day Advisory Committee, that's Andy Bazzani and Mike Walsh from the Biscuits Internet Project, Dave Cook, Ian Armstrong, Rich Steele, Russ Tabes, and Scott McClintock at Think Tank Dubs. As always, special thanks to Joey Friedman and Steve Martocci. And finally, an extra special heartfelt thanks to Lisa Gutwillig, Deb Brownstein, Jelly Magner, Sandra Aucoin, Andrea Rivers, and Avery McMahon. On behalf of John Barber, Crunk Mike, and the entire Touchdowns All Day family, this is Max Dawson saying see you next time.
We're mass communicating. We're mass communicating. Mass communicating.
Osiris.